The word policy isn't exactly exciting, but in police departments, policies determine how officers are allowed to treat you. So is changing those policies a long-term fix or a short-term pat on the back? The Milwaukee police chief wouldn't talk, but that didn't stop Amanda St. Hilaire from digging.
It's not exactly light reading, but the last few weeks have made Milwaukee Police Department policy a page-turner.
Get off his neck!
We want officers who are a part of the fabric of the community and don't view themselves as separate. And that's the problem with MPD's policy and what we're seeing on the street.
Proposed statewide legislation would make deadly use of force a last resort and require officers to intervene in unreasonable use of force by their colleagues. That would be a big change for Milwaukee police if we were talking about their policies from 2009. Since then, MPD policies have been updated to say force that could cause great bodily harm or death is a last resort. Officers who see one of their own using excessive force have a duty to intervene. Police need to call for medical aid if you need it after use of force, and they need to report more cases involving use of bodily force. But MPD's crowd management policy has not gone through the same evolution. That's because it was only created 3 months ago.
We're telling them to apply a brand new policy which is lacking in constitutional safeguards.
Civil rights attorney William Sultan says the crowd management policy needs more specifics. Large portions are redacted. The parts the public can see say if you're arrested, you are entitled to medical attention, but there's no requirement for that to happen immediately. The policy does not say how long police should give you to follow their orders to disperse. If there are details about acceptable use of force tactics in crowds, those are redacted. And the policy mentions de-escalation, but does not define it or say how and when that should happen.
I think this is a balanced policy, and I think it seems to have that flexibility built into it, which is a necessity.
Use of force expert Emmanuel Capelson does law enforcement training and policy consulting. He reviewed the publicly available parts of MPD's use of force and crowd management policies. He says they're well written, but what's on paper is only the beginning.
In the midst of a violent event, the officer doesn't have that policy in front of them and say, well, let's look at page 37 here. What does it tell me to do? The officer has to have internalized that policy to where the officer can simply take action.
In 2016, the U.S. Department of Justice said Milwaukee police officers were not reading and understanding new policies. MPD goes over policy changes during roll call, but Capelson says that's not enough.
The most important aspects of them need to be covered in a classroom setting, and the officers need to be tested on it and refreshed on it from time to time.
At this point, you're probably wondering, where's the chief? Isn't he the best person to talk about all this? Milwaukee police denied several requests to talk to Chief Alfonso Morales about police policies and proposed changes. In fact, it's been weeks since the chief went on camera to answer any of our questions.
Law enforcement throughout our nation. Law enforcement is being crucified.
An MPD spokesperson did send us emails saying Milwaukee police officers have classroom time discussing policy changes, bias, and de-escalation tactics. So would policy reform actually do anything MPD isn't already doing? We're still on Chapter 1. Over the next several weeks, we're taking a closer look at police training, funding, accountability. We hope the chief eventually talks to us. Because Milwaukee's policing story is nowhere near finished. Amanda St. Hilaire, Fox 6 News.
We've gotten a lot of questions about so-called chokeholds. Milwaukee police say they're not trained on any tactics that cut off circulation, but MPD policy doesn't appear to explicitly ban them either. The governor's office is proposing a statewide ban on the move. We did file another interview request with MPD. A spokesperson says she will get back to us. It's an open invitation.